Well, folks, 2023 is almost over, and this morning I woke up and read what may be the most delusional headline that I have read all year long. It said, Donald Trump's amazing year. And when I first read that, I literally laughed out loud and I said, this has to be The Onion. This has to be satire. I'm going to read this and I'm going to get a good gut laugh this morning. But instead, it was real, and it came from Newsweek. Yeah, Newsweek actually put Donald Trump an amazing year in the same headline. So what we're going to do, I'm going to read you a little bit here from the article from Newsweek. Then I'm going to tell you how it actually should have been written. And then we're going to talk about how the mainstream media is actually Donald Trump's best friend and he knows it. But here's how it started off. Overall, Donald Trump has had a pretty good 2023. How delusional do you have to be to write that sentence? In what alternate reality do you have to live in to write a sentence like that? It should have started off, overall, 2023 has been a complete and utter clusterfuck for Donald Trump. He goes on to say, despite his enormous legal troubles, including 4 criminal indictments, the former president has made it through a roller coaster of a year, in some ways stronger than when it began. What it should have said is that he was indicted 4 times. He faces 91 criminal charges, including inciting an insurrection, trying to overthrow the government, trying to overturn an election, trying to install fake electors, taking documents that he was not supposed to have, being found liable for sexual abuse, being found guilty of fraud. And in some ways, we now realize he was even more crooked than we ever thought. That's what it should have said. But it goes on. A year ago, Trump had just announced an early bid for the GOP's presidential nomination, a campaign that many doubted would be successful in a crowded field. This is hard to read. That included a highly anticipated run from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But Trump's Republican rivals, including DeSantis, have failed to catch up to his popularity among voters, and Trump's 2024 candidacy only gained momentum as a pile of legal actions against him grew. God. In what world was Ron DeSantis' run for president highly anticipated? Okay, there was never such a thing. At no point was anyone over here highly anticipating a run, and in a crowded field. Oh, the field was so crowded. Donald Trump worked his way through a crowded field, and despite all these top stars, he just rose to the top. I'm not even going to fool with the rest of that ridiculous article, because anyone with a brain in their head, anyone that was awake and seeing what happened during 2023 knows what a clusterfuck of a year it is. And we know that it would not have mattered if Jesus Christ himself descended from the heavens down on a cloud and ran in the Republican primary. Republicans would not have wanted him, because they're not about the Republican Party. They are all about Donald J. Trump. They don't want the alternative. I used to say, and I was guilty of this, I used to say, if Donald Trump, if we ever got a person who was smarter than Trump, they would go for that. And man, if you had somebody that was actually smarter than him and could pull this shit off, that would be pretty dangerous. But they don't want someone smarter than Trump. They don't want anyone but Trump. He is what they want. There is no middle ground for these people. And the article just goes on to talk about what a year he had and all the victories that he had and all the struggles Joe Biden faces as we go into the new year. And then Donald Trump stands back and he says, oh, the news is cruel to me. The fake news media is mean to me. No, the fake news media is what keeps you alive. They're what keeps feeding people headlines like this instead of cutting right through the bullshit and telling people exactly what happened. Instead, you have content creators on YouTube and TikTok telling people what's really going on, and you have news anchors spewing absolute shit into their audience, and we're supposed to buy it. We're supposed to believe it. The mainstream media, that article, is nothing but a classic case of gaslighting. That's gaslighting 101. That's what that article is. We all know what we saw. We know what we saw from the minute Donald Trump came down the escalator until now, okay? We know exactly what his presidency was like. We know he lost the election. We know he tried to overthrow the government. We know he incited an insurrection. We all know all of that, and we refuse to be gaslit by Newsweek or anyone else that wants to spew propaganda like that. They're doing this for ratings. They're doing this to keep everybody excited about a Trump-Biden rematch. That's what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump does equal ratings. He is a person who has learned how to manipulate the media and use the media to his advantage. And that's what he's doing. His whole fake news shtick is just that. It's just a shtick. It's just something that he says. He admitted it. I only say it when they say something bad about me. He will be proud of that article. He will boast about it. And people will believe it. People will believe that he had an amazing year. But to those of us who had our eyes wide open, we look back at this year for the clusterfuck that it truly was.